Hey everybody, welcome into the very first Sideline Report. This is the phenomenal brother Adam Russell bringing you a new special edition of Sideline Warning we're going to start doing every week, where we take about 5 minutes and just throw together a really quick show where me, Dave, Ben all take turns once a week and kind of go on a rant, bring up a topic, cover something we don't normally cover on the show. I think Dave's going to be excited about bringing some wrestling to this part of the podcast. And then just bring you some ideas and thoughts separate from the bigger show. So still going to do the big show, still going to release that once a week too, but this is going to be kind of a smaller thing, kind of like an appetizer or an after-dinner mint of sorts for that bigger show. So it's been a rough week for all the Alabama football fans out there after the loss to Clemson, 44-16 in the national championship game. Really a seemingly unexplainable loss. And we'll get into a lot of the details around that during the big show that we'll release later this week. But that loss left a lot of Bama fans completely at a loss for words and seemed to have left a lot of the Bama haters with an abundance of words. I'm sure all of us have had several folks come out of the woodwork and all of a sudden now they want to talk football again. I know down where I'm from, I live in Orlando, there's a few Gator fans that have been particularly chatty the last couple of days, but there haven't been many UCF fans talking. I wonder why. But we all see that on social media. We see people at work coming out want to talk football now all of a sudden that when their teams weren't doing well did not want to talk. And then we also see in the media there's a lot of folks out there declaring that our dynasty at Alabama is officially over and that Clemson is the new king of college football. And I know we've heard that several times before throughout Saban's tenure, and I think any Bama fan really worth their salt knows that it isn't completely true. What has surprised me, though, what I kind of want to get into a little bit today with the time I've got with you guys is some of the responses I've seen from Bama fans, particularly on Facebook and some of the Bama fan groups that I'm in. I've seen all kinds of questions. I mean, if you name it, people are talking about it. Why Jalen wasn't put in earlier. They're saying it's a slap in the face that it was so late in the game that they tried anything with Jalen. And those are no doubt the same folks calling for Tua last year, so I wish they just make up their mind. I know I was probably one of those people too. We've talked that before on the show. I've seen folks questioning why Saban was so calm during the whole thing. You know, is he leaving for the NFL, and did he just not care about this game? Did he throw the whole thing under the bus so that he could go take a coaching job like with the dumpster fire of the Cleveland Browns, which we know now is not the case since Freddie Kitchens, an Alabama alum, took that job. I've seen folks question the game plan, why we ran so much, why we passed so much, why we, basically any angle you can think of to criticize the game plan and the way we played, they've done it. By far the most shocking thing that I saw was actually someone that called for us to start looking ahead to the next coach, and that the place we should start looking is with Gene Chizik, of all people. I mean, you really can't make this stuff up at the end of the day. So what I want to do with my turn at the mic for the Sideline Report is to take a moment and remind everyone of where we came from. When you think about where Alabama football stands today, if you think back in time, I was actually a student at Alabama from 1998 to 2002, and I was there for some of the most forgettable and infamous moments in Alabama history. So let me take you back to a second. If you think back, let's have a flashback. Let's get a good sound for that. Here we go. All right, so it's the turn of the century. It's the millennium. Y2K's coming to get all of us, and if you were in college, you were downloading NSYNC, Christina Aguilera, and Creed, probably illegally on Napster, since the dorm had the fastest internet you'd ever seen at the time. There were no iPhones. There was no Wi-Fi. The ultimate in dorm life at the time was playing GoldenEye on the N64, at least until NCAA football came out on the PS2. Then that's what you spent your free time doing. As an Alabama student, you had to drive to Legion Field for at least 2 home games, and the logo was actually still the A with the elephant running through it, believe it or not. But the football, it was bad. You think about the year 2000, Mike Dubose resigned after going 3-8 and admitting to an affair with his secretary. So there's a lot of drama in the program, and that 3-8 season, where when we started actually ranked number 3 in the country, it, along with Dubose's first year in 1997, the year before I got there, when Bama went 4-7, were the worst performances by an Alabama team since the mid-50s, when J.B. Ears Whitworth, who was Bear's predecessor, led Bama to seasons of 0-10 and then back-to-back 2-7 seasons. So it was by far the worst period, and it showed in the losses. I mean, we lost to Virginia Tech 38-7 in the Music City Bowl. We lost to Louisiana Tech by a point one year. We lost to Michigan in the Orange Bowl after we won the SEC championship. That was by a point. We lost to Auburn in the freezing rain for the first Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa. Nothing but field goals, 9-0. And then probably the worst was losing to UCF in Tuscaloosa by 2. Little did we know at the time that would end up echoing later when UCF decided they were the national champions, and they actually would bring that up as a reason why they should be respected all those years ago. And yeah, we did win an SEC championship game in that time. I got to go. It was fabulous. Seeing Spurrier throw his visor in person and getting to beat the Gators twice that year, once in the Swamp, once in the Georgia Dome, they were epic. At least for us at the time. And even in that period, the small wins, beating Iowa State in the Independence Bowl, barely edging out ECU at home, beating Ole Miss by a field goal in overtime, those wins were actually fun. Winning back then was fun because it was so rare. But you look at where we are now, and we're not just 20 years removed from those trouble seasons. I can't believe that it's been that long. But we're light years away from where we were in terms of our program. And as fans, and I think as the whole culture of Alabama football, we've gotten to a point where winning just isn't fun anymore. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Winning ends up being more of a feeling of relief than it does a feeling of victory. Because if we've gotten to the point, and I know we've all done it this year especially, we actually got to a point this season where if we didn't win by enough points, we complained. I just talked about us being Iowa State by a point in the Independence Bowl, and I remember celebrating. Now we're talking about that we didn't beat Texas A&M by about 20-something points, and that wasn't enough of a margin. When we win the SEC championship like we did this year, we're glad. But to us now, it's just become one step in the process. When we win the Orange Bowl over Oklahoma like we did this year, or the Sugar Bowl over Clemson like we did last year, it's great, but there's one more step after that. Because that's the ultimate goal for us, because we've gotten a taste of what it means to be in the national championship game and win it so many times. That's the ultimate expectation now. And losing even stings more, not only because it happens so infrequently, but because when it does, it's on a big stage. It's in a big game, and it either cost us the national championship like it did this past Monday, or it cost us the chance to even go to the playoff or play in the national championship like the Iron Bowl almost did last year. So this week, in the shadow of one of the most disappointing days, at least in recent memory for Alabama football, let's all take a step back first and remember where we came from. Let's all just remember there was a day not that long ago where we weren't even in the hunt for a national championship. And honestly, there's most likely a day coming in the not too distant future when we won't be there as consistently as we are now, if at all. We don't know what the future holds there, right? So let's remember also, football is a sport. It's a form of entertainment. It's played by young men, and it has very little bearing on each and every one of our everyday lives. For all the griping we've done about Saban, honestly, he could not care less what any of us think. It's fun to bicker and it's fun to argue. I've seen a lot of true, honest frustration, though, this week. He doesn't care. To him, the process is about winning. And yes, it's about winning at its core, but more importantly, it's about molding those young men into who they will be in the future. Football just happens to be the tool that Nick Saban uses to mold these kids. To him, it's about an investment in who they're going to be. Winning is a byproduct of that. So when we say the process, it's a slogan for domination on the football field. But to these kids, to their families, to the changes they want to make in their lives, and to Nick Saban and Miss Terry, it's the very representation of the university's new tagline, where legends are made. That's ultimately what they want to do with these young men, is turn them into legends on and off the field for the rest of their lives. So let's all live up to the process in that context and put football in its rightful place in our own lives and support the Tide no matter what. I know most of you guys do, but for those out there that have turned into fair weather fans on all of this all of a sudden, just put it in the right perspective. So that's all I've got, guys. Thanks for letting me bend your ear, and as Dave always says, we love you, and we'll see you during the big show later this week, and Roll Tide.